All right, Anthony. Cool. You were just mentioning your wife's doing her first doula on her own today. Yeah.
No.
It's not just on her own.
She's been doing them.
Right, but this is like a bigger one today, or no?
Well, this is one that I guess this is the first one that she can actually bill to the Medicare or Medicaid.
Oh, right. Okay. So
before they're private clients and things like that. But now she can actually go as a traditional healthcare worker.
Yeah.
I think this is the first one that she can do that with. So yeah.
Wow. Cool. How has that been? Kind of like being on the other side of it with her, supporting her through that and whatnot. Has it been a long process?
A lot of hard work. I mean, I recently, unfortunately, just became disabled at 49. I just qualified for SSDI. I've been unemployed for about 3 years.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
So I've been helping her. We run a daycare business. 5 kids, usually like 2 infants, 3 toddlers. And she was a kindergarten teacher forever, but decided, why am I paying, for health, or why am I paying for childcare when I can just do it at home? So she's been doing that for about 15 years, I guess.
Oh, wow, cool.
So finally she's like, I'm getting older, I want to do something else. And that's the kind of transition she took. And as far as the support system, I've been having to take on a lot of the care of the kids while she's going through classes, or anytime she's spent going online and being a part of the community or anything like that. So it's been a little bit of a struggle because I'm more technology savvy than she is. So yeah, it's just a lot needs to happen in a short amount of time, and then you have to wait a long time. So it's like hurry up and wait, and get things done. And it's been a good process, and I'm proud of her that she's actually getting this done, and it could be pretty productive and lucrative for her.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's great. So you got kids of your own?
Huh?
You have kids of your own?
I have a 30-year-old daughter who has 3 kids of her own. She lives in Kentucky. Wow. My wife, who I'm currently with, I've been married 3 times. Okay. We've been together about 8 years. She adopted a girl from China, and then she adopted another girl from here. Her and her previous husband thought they couldn't have kids, but apparently that wasn't the case, because after we got together, we had a son, and so he just turned 7 this month.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, so we got 4 kids.
I see.
So I'm a dad and a grandpa.
Yeah, doing a little bit of both. Mm-hmm. Cool. And then, are you from the Portland area, or?
I was born in Campbell, California.
Campbell, California. Oh, okay.
And grew up in like Santa Cruz Mountains and Santa Cruz area.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And then at the age of 10, went out to Lexington, Kentucky.
To Kentucky.
Yeah.
And
then back and forth, California and Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Is your parents splitting up, or?
I've never known my dad.
Oh, okay.
My mom, I guess the beginning of the story goes is, my grandma couldn't have kids, so she adopted my mom and my uncle. And about the age of 15, my mom ended up having me.
Oh.
I think what happened is she found out she was adopted, and that gave her a sense of being abandonment, basically. And she kind of got in with the wrong crowd. Some pretty heavy hitters and biker gangs. And she ended up going to prison when I was like 6 years old.
Oh, gosh.
In which my grandparents raised me pretty much till I was like 10. She turned state's witness, and we ended up in the witness protection program. And they moved us. And that's how I ended up in Kentucky. They changed my identity and moved us to another state.
Really? What is that like? I mean, being so young and, I don't know, changing your identity. I mean, what was that?
Well, I was 10 years old, so I was just happy to see her because I hadn't seen her for 4 years. besides
Yeah.
going to the prison and visiting, you know, like, and I hadn't seen her. So all I cared about was being with her.
Yeah.
I
that
didn't
makes
know.
sense.
I remember we went to Chicago. We flew to Chicago because that's where they gave us our new Social Security numbers and stuff, our new identities, and then they sent us to Kentucky. That's all I cared about, is just being with my mom, you know.
Yeah. Where were you those 4 years? Who were you staying with?
My grandparents.
Your grandparents.
Yeah.
And did you have a great relationship with your grandparents?
They were probably the best influence in my life. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, they're Dust Bowl babies. They came from Oklahoma, Dust Bowl. They're second generation German immigrants. They went to church twice on Sunday and every Wednesday. And they installed core values, I think, in me.
Yeah.
Which was the complete opposite of after my mom, when my mom got me. Because, you know, turning state's witness on some biker gangs gets you killed. So she was involved in some heavy shit. You know.
Wow.
She was a drug user. So I went, you know, age 10, having this Christian home, you know, this wholesome home, and Lawrence Welk, and, you know, all the good old days. I basically grew up in the 50s because they never grew out of it, you know. And to go in with my mom, who was a heroin junkie. And, you know, they moved us, and I think I became more aware of the situation when I was like 10 or like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
I got more hip to what was really happening and started understanding more why she went away and I couldn't see her. And, I mean, she was a junkie. She literally, I would have to, you know, she'd be passed out with a needle in her arm, and I'd have to take the needle out of her arm, make sure she was breathing, and at age 12, and get her in her bed and deal with that. So I dealt with that till I was like 15, and then a lot of crazy shit happened. And then my grandparents ended up taking me back because I asked them, I can't be in this situation, you know?
Yeah.
So I went back to California when I was 15 and lived with my grandparents. And that's when I started turning into a hellion.
To a what?
A hellion, basically. A heathen.
Heathen.
I couldn't. Those 3 years of experience with my mom ruined me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many crazy, fucked up stories I can tell you about having a junkie mother and what she did, you know, for a living and stuff like that. So when I got back to my grandparents at age 15, I lost some of those core values that they instilled in me, and I started doing drugs and hanging out with the wrong crowd. It was my turn.
Right, yeah.
Started stealing from the church, you know, and just being a total asshole. And their health started to decline, so I had nowhere to go. And I was like 17, and they moved into a home, and then I was homeless.
Really?
At 17. And the only other place for me to go was back to my mom, you know, because I had no direction. You know, I hardly ever went to school because, you know, she was always passed out or doing something, you know, on the road, doing some shit. And so basically kind of raised myself after that, 17. I started working in kitchens when I was like 16, I think.
Okay.
And I did that for 25 years. Made it all the way to executive chef and ran $1 million inventory kitchens. And so, yeah, when I was about 17, I decided I have to do something. And that's when I started, like, full-fledged hitting the kitchen. That's where I lived, pretty much.
Wow. And so would you say that you were kind of set straight by your experience being kind of homeless for a bit, or?
Well, I've been homeless a few times in my life. I mean,
Yeah.
that wasn't the first time, but What was the question?
Oh, sorry. Like what was sort of like the impetus or like to get really like set into the kitchen world? And
Well,
did that straighten you out or?
Well, it gave me structure. It gave me camaraderie. All those things I didn't have before, you know.
Yeah.
And those were just, we were nuts back then, you know. I mean, I don't know if you ever, you know, who Anthony Bourdain is. Did you read Kitchen Confidential at all?
Yeah, I read that.
That's what it was like.
Yeah.
It was really like that. I mean, it was, you had to be a misfit to be working in the kitchen back then. Nobody wanted to be a chef back then. You know, this is, what, 90, 88, 89? So yeah, that's what drew me to it, is just having that camaraderie. Plus, I was really artistic. Around my 20s, I started doing tattoos.
Oh, yeah?
Just, you know, for hobby, and then did it for money for a while, and decided I didn't want to be in that world. It was really weird at that time. So I stuck with the cooking.
Yeah.
But that gave me the structure I needed. Right around, I was maybe, well, at that time, before I moved back to, I did go back to Kentucky, right, when I was around 20. And that's when I hooked up with this girl, and she got pregnant, like, you know, overnight. That's when I had my first daughter.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I was basically on the hook, and they were pretty well-to-do people. So they, you know, sued me for anything I had, child support, anything.
Wow.
So they really, and that was another reason why I had to stay employed, you know, and the kitchen was where it's at for me. So
yeah,
did it for 25 years.
What caused you to leave?
After 25 years of doing the same thing, your body starts to wear.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the things that I'd done before because also the lifestyle I lived. I was pretty much into alcohol. Everyone was. Alcohol, cocaine, you know, just keeping it alive as long as you can. That was just part of the restaurant world, you know. And it wears on you. I almost died a few times from drinking.
Really?
So that kind of set me straight. And just wanting to get out of that world that I've been in for so long. I had carpal tunnel severely from it, and
Really?
ulnar neuropathy, and now it's starting over here. I had surgery on my ulnar nerve and carpal tunnel. My hands were like I seized. I couldn't open my hand at some point because it was just the nerve was so pinched that my hand wouldn't open, and the pain was unbearable. So I had surgery, and it really helped. That's been about 4 years ago, and it's so much better. But now it's starting over here, so I'm holding off as long as I can to go through surgery because again, I had a horrible experience with it. So.
And what kind of surgery is that?
Well, they basically go in there and you know, snip, 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 snip. But I also had a tumor in my lymph node that they removed. It wasn't cancer. But the anesthesiologist accidentally poked a hole in my throat when he was inserting the whatever, you know, when they put you out. So I woke up and from the surgery, and my throat was really sore, and I'm asking like, what was, you know, is this normal? And they're like, oh, well, we accidentally I couldn't eat for 3 months. I could only have liquid. I weighed 250 pounds. I ended up being 175 pounds.
Wow.
You could see my bones in my legs, and because I couldn't eat.
Yeah.
Because there's a hole in my fucking throat.
That's
and it takes that long to heal.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I guess just the wear and tear on your body and mind, and you start to wonder why am I making these people rich? Of course, it's my body. I mean, I'm sacrificing my body for someone else's wealth. And I just kind of guess what everyone does, but I wanted to do something else. You know what I mean? And just the nature of every asshole restaurant owner that I've ever dealt with, the shysters and all the mess of it, just done. Couldn't do it anymore. So I was thinking, what can I do to earn money? My driving record's totally clean.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I can deliver produce. That'd be fun. Because in that way I can come in the back door of the kitchens.
Yeah, you know how that
And
works.
I'm out.
Yeah,
You guys deal with all that mess. So I did that for a while. I delivered produce.
Oh, okay. Right
Yeah. And this is pre-surgery. It was a couple years later that I had my surgeries. It was right around when COVID hit.
Oh, okay.
When I had my surgeries. So I did that for a while, and it was just, I spent more time working than I did with my family. I literally spent 4 hours a day with my family. I was like, I don't want, what am I doing? I don't want to spend, I don't want to work this hard for, $16, $17 an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm a woodworker as well. I did that as a hobby, just on the side. So I got into apartment maintenance and construction and building. So that's what I did after produce, which was really good money, $30 an hour. Hell yeah. But it even tore my body up even more.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was really laborious work.
Yeah.
It's good money, laborious work. So then I did that until right around when COVID hit, and then I got laid off from my job, like everybody else. Went through COVID. About 6 months into COVID is when I had my surgeries. And then I hadn't worked since.
Yeah.
Kind of doing odd jobs for people, just here and there. But it's been a rough go. Right around that time, I applied for my disability. It's taken 3 years for them to finally make a judgment, and that happened last month.
And you got it.
I got awarded, yeah.
Nice. Okay, good.
So I will be getting 3 years of back pay, which is great.
Wow. Yeah.
That's going to help us out a lot because we've been so far behind with COVID, and because we lost families as well because they weren't going to work, so they didn't need childcare. Only a couple of them stayed on board, and we're just like, oh, this is loss of income. So that's when I had to pick up more like odd jobs, repairing, faucets and shit. Just like doing gigs on Craigslist, basically.
Yeah, I see. Oh.
So that's how I survived until when COVID was finally about over. We started picking up more kids. And at 5 kids, we pull in about $5,500 a month.
Okay, yeah.
So that's family of 5. That's doable. It's hard, but it's doable.
Yeah.
So that's basically what we've been doing the last 3 or 4 years. I like to credit myself for not turning into what my mother or the people that she brought me up with.
Yeah.
I could have been a murderer, or I could have been a thief. I could have been all those things. I could have been in prison. I've never spent a day in jail.
Yeah.
I got my first speeding ticket like 2 years ago. Like, clean as a whistle. Lucky as fuck. Clean as a whistle. I've driven drunk a million times. Been pulled over 4 times drunk. They let me go every time.
Wow.
So I've been lucky. I've had my opportunity to be a loser, but I think I found out in life that I'm the only one I can count on. I'm the only one that can get me out of any kind of mess. And I wanted to be there for my kid, my daughter at that point.
Yeah.
So
do you feel like your experience with your mom being that way, it was just, you weren't going to let that happen with your own daughter?
Well, I think in conjunction with, or prior with my grandparents, instilling those core values in me.
Yeah.
Some of them stuck, the good ones stuck, you know what I mean? And then that experience with my mom, it's like 2 faces of the coin. I experienced both.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course I didn't want to be like that. Like, I was carrying my mom with a needle in her arm at 11 years old. Like, I didn't want to be a part of that lifestyle. Of course not.
Yeah.
I mean, I did grow up with addiction problems, with alcohol because I needed ways to repress my feelings, and it eventually turned into a mental battle, and I went through shit ton of depression and suicidal thoughts and things like that. So I've had the best of both, but I haven't fallen off yet. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't given up on myself.
Yeah.
I've tried to destroy myself, but it hasn't worked. I mean, when I was 25, I didn't think I'd live to be 30, 35. I was like, nah, it's not gonna happen. When I was 40, I'm like, what the hell? And here I am turning 50 in January, and I consider myself quite lucky to have the life I have. It's not always been the easiest, man, but you can't always get what you want. But you get what you need.
Yeah.
And that's been my life. For some reason, getting ready to lose everything, and then something comes through to save it. And that's been my whole life.
Does it kind of almost feel like you're being watched after?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a faith or?
Yeah, my faith is interesting. My wife goes to a church, Christian church, every Sunday. A great group of people. I like the people a lot. The church I grew up in when I was a kid was Mennonite Christian.
Okay.
So they were really strict.
Yeah.
Like, I used to get whipped for not wanting to go to church. So that kind of deterred me from the believing of what is this really.
Yeah.
And then, growing up, learning about Buddhism and, all the other religions in the world, that there's proof that existed, Christ is only this book and a word. There's no proof that God existed. None.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely not.
There's none. Yeah, so I believe, I mean, all this can't be, possible without creation, I believe. I believe that everything working out the way it did for us to be standing here, sitting here, having this conversation with history and chance and things to do, choices to make. You can see how people make choices and they suffer the consequence, but they don't want to, but they made that choice.
Mm-hmm.
I can see suffering, and I can see all the 7 deadly sins. I can see where the Bible's coming from. I know it was translated from Hebrew and from hundreds of years and blah blah blah. But my belief about it is God, or whatever God is in you.
Yeah.
You, when they say you're made in the image of God, it's because you are.
Yeah.
And what God is telling you is you have a choice in this creation that was made. I'm not going to say it was made by God, but it was made. I mean, there's a purpose in all this. There has to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it couldn't just be that we're that far away from the sun or that far away from the moon towards just right to where it grows our food to, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's not chance.
Perfect, right?
It's not chance. So I believe that it's in you to make your choices.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I believe that we're on kind of a I believe in multiple universes. I believe when we die here, we do go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a parallel universe. Who knows what it is?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Our souls are so powerful that it's just our bodies are a shell. But I think there's too much to our souls to believe that when you die, that's it. It's darkness or whatever. Like I used to believe that, but I don't believe that anymore. I mean, the older I get and the shit I've seen, the more shit I've been through, and feeling like what I really believe is my grandparents prayed every day for me, every day, and I believe they're watching over me. I believe that they're helping me make decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a choice, and sometimes I make the wrong decision, and I have to suffer the consequence for that. And I've had a lot of suffering. And, my mom, we've now repaired our relationship,
Oh.
um, and that was recent. There were years we didn't speak, and she's kind of turned herself around. She's still alive, and not she's still a pillhead, but she's not like a hardcore junkie anymore or anything. But I think she realizes she is getting near to the end of her life, and she wants to somehow make up for what she did to me.
Wow.
Mm.
Did she reach out to you?
Well, I mean, last time I saw her, she came to my wedding, my last wedding, 8 years ago, and made a huge scene because I took my wife's last name, and because Schwartz was my last name, the government gave me from being, in the witness protection.
Right.
In my whole life, I've had to deal not living in my identity. I was Schwartz.
Yeah.
I wasn't Schwartz. I never heard that Schwartz every fucking time. I'm like, and so that's why I wanted to take my wife's last name. I didn't want to have that feeling, and my whole life I hated it, and I resented my mom for it, and we're back and forth for years. So she got mad and made a huge scene at our wedding, and that was like, I'm done. I can't talk to her anymore. Over the years, I kind of said, okay, let me give it another shot, and call her up, and then of course all we do is fight and argue. But recently, within the last year, I just said, you know what, like, I can't hold on to that anymore. My life turned out the way it did because of choices I made, but also because she didn't give me the tools or the opportunity. She put me in a school, take me out. We'd move to another district, put me in school, take me out, move. So I was just moving around. I never had there was no like roots. So I never accomplished anything, except for being in the kitchen and being, a really good chef, making a career out of it. But I feel like have forgiven her finally, and it feels good to let that go. She recently came up for my son's birthday, which was October 21st, and drove up from California and stayed for 2 days, and we didn't have a fight. And it was amazing. It's the first time in 2 days, like in our life, that we weren't around each other for 2 days and didn't fight or something didn't break out. Like we both tried really hard. I could tell she was trying, and so it encouraged me to try too. And I think we can't ever repair the relationship. I don't think the only thing that could be done is me forgiving her, and that's it. That's what I have to do to carry on and not have that hate and emotion in my because I was taking it out on other people.
Yeah.
I sought therapy, medication. Medication has really been helpful. But I'm really glad I'm taking the steps to not repair, but just kind of forgive that relationship, even though I could write a book about it, and it would be, oh man, this is fiction. Some of the really rotten stories that I'd really rather not talk about. But I'm just, you think of a Quentin Tarantino movie. That's kind of been my life with the violence. And I saw this quote: "You don't know the violence it took for me to be this gentle." And I love that quote because I have to be gentle now. I have to show my son to be a good man. I never had a dad. I had multiple men in my life fucking my mom. I never had a dad. So now it's my job that I have a son, that he's going to have a better life than me, and he's not going to grow up in an environment. And, no, he's not going to experience that. That's kind of like my main purpose now is raising my boy.
Yeah.
And keeping this marriage going. One issue I'm having right now is I don't want to drink. My wife loves to drink. It's really hard to be an alcoholic and not want to drink when your spouse is drinking. And
yeah, of course.
Yeah, she wants to kiss me, and I'm like, I don't want to smell it. So it's kind of ruined our intimacy. And like she has a glass of wine on the bed, and every night I'm like, I don't want to smell it. So we got another room. I'll go sleep in the other room, and she's trying to understand that, but she's caught up in her own thing in life.
Yeah.
And that's her thing. That's her tool. That's what she uses to decompress. I get it. But so I'm working really hard to find a way to just deal with that at the same time, knowing that if I leave because of it, it's going to ruin my son's life. So I'm making the sacrifice so my son can have like a father in his life full time.
Yeah.
Not every other weekend and on 1 day a week. He has a best friend that's going through that right now, and it's horrible. And me growing up without a father, I don't want him ever to experience that because I know what it feels like. That's pretty much my main goal right now.
That's great. Would you say you've always kind of had like that empathy for like like you just demonstrated, like saying like you want your son to have that better life, and you know what it feels like to not to. Do you feel like you always had that where you were sort of like aware of these problems and these emotions, or was there something or anything that happened where you had to kind of have a reckoning with?
I think it's just the combination of everything, and not wanting to live for so long, and then making it, and then having a purpose all of a sudden. I don't remember any benchmark or catalyst, but I think it's just a combination of what I've experienced in my life, and then how it's manifested itself to now.
It's been kind of just one step at a time.
Yeah, a total step. It's like, forging a knife. You have to go in the fire, and you have to get pounded on the anvil, and you have to go through these things to be a strong blade.
Yeah.
I think that's what I realized is my strength over time is I can go through all these crazy situations and still somehow make it out.
Yeah, because I just think it's remarkable just hearing a little bit of what you've been through and kind of coming out on the other side the better man rather than letting it get the best of you.
Yeah. It's almost gotten me quite a few times.
Yeah.
Like, I lost my family for about 2 months after my surgeries because I was on the medications. They gave me fucking Oxycontin and shit.
Yeah.
I was drinking, and we were bundled up, and the cops were called because I took the doors off the girls' bedrooms, as a punishment, only because she told me to, and so basically the court ordered me out of the house, and I was living in a hotel for like 2 months. I had to kind of fight my way back into the house, and so that could have been one of those micro catalysms or catalysts that turned me into
Yeah.
I made a bad decision. Yeah, I was an asshole. Yeah, I drank. Was it my fault? Partly, yeah. But I'll take the consequences, and I'll do what I have to do to make it better. yeah, I've kind of always been like that in some sort of way. You know,
Yeah.
it's just kind of molded itself into what it is over the years.
Yeah, kind of like a warrior spirit, not letting things
I
pull you back,
I
like keep
guess,
moving forward,
yeah. I
right?
mean, I don't know. I don't think about myself like that. You know what I mean? Like, I really don't think about myself. I make so much sacrifices, and always have. I've rarely ever done things for myself. I don't think of myself as this big, strong warrior who's made it through it all. Whoa, look at me. You know, like, um, I'm more humble. I think
Yeah.
it's life has humbled me for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. What would you say is, if you could distill one of those sort of values that you feel your grandparents left you with, what would be one of them that comes to mind?
um, Probably the love, unconditional love that they showed me.
Yeah.
Like no matter what I did, especially after when I came back when I was a teenager, you know, steal from the church and shit like that. And I was a terrible kid. They always loved me no matter what, and always forgave me. And you know, I think that has got me through life for sure. Yeah, I definitely think they gave me the strength to go through life because I saw them as these strong people. I mean, they were the people who raised me basically, and the condition they came from. You know, like they're canning their own food, and she made her own clothes, and you know they were constitutional people. Like they had a constitution, and I think they somehow put all that in me in a really short amount of time. I don't know how they did it, but um, it's gotten me through this fucked up life for sure.
That's great. Has there been any other kind of like big role models or um, heroes or whatever you might want to call them that kind of helped you through hard times
Oh
or
God, yeah,
mentored you?
yeah, a man named Everett Glover, who I met about 15 years ago. I, my migration up north to Oregon stopped in Ashland for a couple of years. And I worked in a kitchen there and met Everett. He hired me on my birthday. He hired me just as a cook, and so I went in there and just cooked. And they just started the business, you know, and they're going doing all these numbers, and I've come to find out that uh, the woman who was the kitchen manager was the ex girlfriend of one of his sons. They were just putting the make on him. I found out, and he was losing quite a bit of money every month, and I talked him out of it. I talked him out of the restaurant. I said, "You're losing X amount. These people have got you on the hook, and they did this purposely. They did this to you. Like she sucked you in, she sucked your dick, so you would take over this lease that was a fucked up 10-year lease, and that's the reason why they did it to him. He invested all this goddamn money. He was a rich dude from the East Coast, and he basically, what do you call him? Trust fund baby.
Yeah.
So never had to work a day in his life. You know what I mean? Really great guy. Solid. So I talked him out of it, man. I told him, you need to cut this shit out right now. He did. He broke the lease. He closed the business down. Even though it meant me losing a job, I just could not see that happening to this guy. Like, why?
Yeah.
And so I, again, made that sacrifice for him and said, look. So he was very gracious, and he paid for our move up to Portland. I was painting a lot then, so he paid for a studio where I can paint. Um, he, you know, gave us the money for an apartment just to get settled.
Wow.
we had this awesome relationship ever since. And I miss the hell of that guy. He died about 6 years ago. And it was the most horrible thing. He was a father figure. He was a brother figure. He was the best friend I ever had in my life. And he felt the same way about me. And when I lost him, I just because I only had a handful of friends in my life, and they're all older than me, 20 years at least, because those are the only people I can trust, really. I can't trust people my age when I was 20 and 30 years old. And I have like zero friends because I have trust issues. It's just the way it is. So he was the one that I lost that was really devastating, but he was also a huge influence in my life and in the direction that it went into after leaving Ashland. He made a lot of financial sacrifices for me that I was able to actually show in galleries, and I was doing really good. I was selling paintings, but then I found out about the artist's life in Portland in 2000. I think it was 2005. I don't know, 08, yeah, 09.
Yeah.
It was at that time. It was 60-40 split. They wanted 60. These galleries. It's like what? So I started doing it independently. Also, I worked for a guy named John Annesley, who was a canvas builder. So I learned how to build my own canvases, and then I tried to open my own canvas company, and that was around 2008 when the market crashed and everything crashed, and no one wanted to. Like, that's the first thing they go is art. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I did all right in the beginning, but I was running in the red every year, and I couldn't keep it going. So after 2 years, I gave that up and just didn't want to go back to that pretentious art world. Yeah. But he was awesome, man, and he's the reason why I got these two tattoos in my hands. He was a sailor.
Oh.
And we did sailing. He taught me how to sail.
Oh, wow.
He had a little just a little sailboat. Nothing big. But he was from that background of the East Coast, like Puget, not Puget Sound, but that's up in
like Chesapeake Bay. Or?
Yes, that's what it is.
Oh,
yeah,
nice,
yeah. He's kind of from that era and that background. I played drums and he played bass, and we loved jazz music, and we would just rip. It didn't make any fucking sense, but it was fun. We would do that, and we'd paint together, and I don't know. It's just I miss him a lot. I miss him every day.
I can imagine.
He was a poet. We wrote poetry together. Like, we used to have these silly little poetry readings. Like, you get super drunk, and I was into Bukowski back then, and yeah, we'd sit there and have these funny little poetry readings and like videotape them, and there wasn't anything like podcasts or anything back then, or YouTube really, so we were just doing it for ourselves. We did this thing when we didn't when I was in Oregon, he was in California. He would make drawings and blah 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 and put it in an envelope, and then I would have to add to it, and then I would send it to one of his friends, and he would add to the art, and then it'd go back and forth until finally we were all collaborated on this piece of art.
Wow.
So I mean, we just those kind of things, that real friends do. Not just hanging out in the bar talking about girls or wwhatever, or sports or common shit. It wasn't common at all. He was a misfit like me, and I miss that relationship a lot.
Yeah, it just all those different mediums of art that you all did together. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
What has that relationship with art been with you? Whether it's like music or poetry and all that, what has that been more recently for you?
Well, I got more into building recently.
Yeah.
Because I'm really into wood.
Hmm.
I build book houses.
Oh, cool.
For neighborhoods, donate them, whatever.
The little libraries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to scrap yards and go online, Craigslist, look for free wood, and I'm a wood hound. I'll find it anywhere I can, and I'll break it down and build one of those houses for nothing, just give it away. Or, um, I've recently thought about painting again. My hands are really fucked up, and when I turn them a certain way, they shake because of the nerves. But when I was drunk all the time, I was painting while I was drunk. So I mean, I haven't gotten into painting
Right,
in a while. It's probably been about 3 years. I did a painting and donated it to an elementary school auction. That was the last time I painted. Yeah, if you look up Anthony Manuel 411 on Google, and it should come up Flickr.
Oh yeah, Flickr. Yeah.
So Anthony Manuel 411, all one word, and that should bring you right to my old Flickr site, and you can see my paintings.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But that was the last time I painted, about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. What kind of thematically, like what kind of stuff?
Medium.
Yeah, or like kind of stuff was on your mind while painting.
Well, I went through phases. I usually did acrylic on canvas and indoor panel. I really went through I guess my last phase was aquatics. So I really got into cephalopods and seahorses and starfish and things like that.
I love that.
The ocean. Before that, it was Aztec. Like I was really into Aztec art. Cool. So I was doing like totems and just like kind of abstract, as you would see on the side of a temple, like in Mexico somewhere, like that kind of design. But I had one called Cockfight. It was basically kind of looked like a chicken head or a cock head, a rooster head.
Yeah.
But it was in graffiti-esque abstract style. That's what I call it for a while.
Wow, that sounds cool.
Yeah, you can check it out.
yeah. No, I'm curious. Kind of wrap things up. I'm curious. What would you put as what would you say like the biggest lesson in your life you've learned?
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Never. Don't give up on yourself. Ever.
All right. Yeah, I think that's as simple as that. That's all you really.
I mean, don't. I've been in so many situations where I'm like, this is not gonna work. It's never gonna work. But you just gotta have faith and know that tomorrow will be different. But if you continue to sabotage yourself, it's not gonna. That's giving up. You just give up on yourself and find yourself in a tent in front of someone's house. I mean, that's giving up.
Yeah, so it's kind of like understanding when you have given up on yourself and that you have to keep trying.
You have to.
When you don't feel it.
You have to want to live.
Be better.
You have to feed, and eat in this society. How do you do that? It's basically a barter system. You do something for somebody, and they give you something worth value, and that value is money. It could be other stuff because I do a lot of bartering and work for people, and then they do shit for me that gets me ahead in life. But I never give up trying. And there's so many times where I've said to myself, I'm so glad I didn't give up, man. I'm so glad I did, because I wouldn't have what I have.
Yeah.
If I would have given up years ago and put that gun in my mouth like I wanted to, I wouldn't have this beautiful child, or the opportunity to raise him into, a good man. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's well put. I'm with you 100%. Great. Cool, Anthony. Well, thanks for coming by.
Sure.
I'll come grab that clip off you.